Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we're going to be doing Brittany's nails. We are transforming her very festive Christmas nails into just a cute and dainty set for the New Year's, and Valentine's Day is coming up, so I think these fit very well as well if you don't like an overly Valentine Day look. So I'm going to start off by using my not polished Efile at about 8 to 9,000 RPMs. This thing is powerful, so definitely don't have to go super high up in speed if you're not comfortable to do so. I'm going to be using a 5-in-1 bit in medium grit to remove her current design. And then I'm also going to be bringing down that tip just a smidge because we are going to be encapsulating some glitter. I'm also going to be removing any lifted area with this same bit, specifically staying on the acrylic to not mess up her natural nail. So I'm just gonna keep going back and forth, removing the design, removing the bulk acrylic at the tip, and again trying to thin out that lifted area she may have. I'm gonna go ahead and repeat that on the rest of the nails. If you are not comfortable using an Efile, definitely practice on yourself 100%. Every time that you are questioning any type of process, your best client to try something new on is going to be yourself. You're going to be able to see how hard or how light you have to be. You can see the amount of pressure, you can see the movement better. It will be a little bit different on an actual client, but always practice on yourself first, especially when trying out new products. Every time I want to make sure that the retention of a product is good, I always try it on myself and make sure that we are good to go. That way we do not have any issues with our clients. So just a quick little tip before we get right back to it. Next, I'm actually going to be taking my hand file and we're going to be filing the sides to make sure that that shape is nice and crisp, but I'm also going over top of the surface. The reason why I'm doing this is because it allows me to get that surface super smooth in one motion and very quickly. Whenever you're using your Efile, sometimes your wrist might give out, you might add a little bit more pressure in certain areas, so the surface is not going to be super smooth, especially when you are filing down product. If you're just doing your finished file, you obviously use a little bit more of a light amount of pressure, so it is easier to get a smooth surface with that, but I just prefer to go back in with my hand file, and we're just gonna make this go by quicker and get that nice smooth surface on these extra long nails. I did go from my not polish hand file to the Tammy Taylor ones. I remember that I had restocked, so I went ahead and grabbed those. I do like the not polished ones. I'm just so used to the Tammy Taylor ones. The stiffness of it, the shape of it. I just am so used to these. And I also feel like the grit might be a little bit stronger on these. I honestly never pay attention to the grit on any other file, but I do really like the Tammy Taylor one. So if you're looking for a really good hand file, these are always the ones that I recommend, and they're always my go-to. Now that I have that nice and smooth, I'm actually going to be going back in with my bit and we're going to focus on those lifted areas. I did thin them out, but I wanted to go back in and make sure that I fully removed it at this point. I sometimes just kind of go back and forth just depending on how I feel. If my wrist is kind of giving out on me, I just go ahead and switch the process to allow a little bit of a break. I've talked about it before on my channel, but I do have Lyme disease and that just affects like all my muscles, nerves, and everything. So sometimes, depending on how much I've been working or the amount of stress that I'm going through, my hands do tend to give out. So I just allow myself to get a little bit of a break in between different processes during the whole nail service, and then everything is just completely fine. I'm like completely fine towards the end of me doing her nails. So I just go ahead and do that as I feel. But now I'm gonna go in with my mandrel bit and medium grit sanding band, and we're just gonna push back that cuticle ever so gently. If you have been following our nail journey with Brittany, she did experience an allergic reaction, and ever since then she no longer wants me to do her cuticles. So I am pretty much trying to stay as much away of that cuticle as possible. I ask her every time she comes in, like, do you want me to do your cuticles? And she always says no, but I'm going to continue to ask because you just never know if she gets comfortable with it once again. So I'm pretty much just focusing on removing that shine from her natural nail. And then I'm going to be using a lint free wipe and a little bit of young nail swipe and removing that excess dust and removing those excess oils from her natural nail. Now, I'm actually going to be taking the Model 1's dehydrator. She did experience a little bit more lifting than usual, so I'm going to go in with a dehydrator after my young nail swipe, and then we're going to be going in with the acrylic primer from Kiara Sky. This has been the only primer that has worked with her skin. So if any product gets on it, she will have a flare up, and these are all HEMA-free products. So after doing the switch, she has actually been doing really good. So we are not going to mess with that process, and we're just going to continue to use what is working for her. And do note that depending on your clients, you will have to switch products around. I know back when I started doing nails, my clients got really accustomed to the protein bond from Young Nails, and I unfortunately had to let that go and switch out because it was just causing way too much lifting in my clients. So always take note of that as well. I'm going to be going in with a glitter ombre, and I'm pretty much just taking like a milky white, adding that to her cuticles and bringing that downwards towards the center of the nail. But I'm going to be pretty much just doing that chunky glitter at the tip, bringing it upwards towards the middle section. And to attach that glitter to her nail, since she already has acrylic on there, I'm taking a very small amount of clear acrylic, placing it on the nail, picking up chunky glitter with my brush, placing it on there, and then I pretty much just blend it out. It may seem a little bit of a complicated process, but it's pretty much what has worked for me. I don't mind it. It stays on there. If you feel like you need to mix it with clear acrylic before you apply it, definitely do so. It's all just preference, and if it works, it works. There's not necessarily a correct way of applying any type of product other than like your retention products, of course. But when it comes to encapsulating, adding decals, stickers, there's so many different ways of doing all the nail art stuff that you don't have to stick to one specific process. So always take note of that as well. So again, very thin layer of clear acrylic. I'm picking up the chunky glitter and I just instantly start patting it into that clear acrylic. That's gonna allow it to stick to the surface. But once it starts drying down, it actually grabs that acrylic. It actually grabs that glitter and it won't move anywhere. And then of course I go back in with a little bit more clear and encapsulate that glitter. Otherwise it will just pop off, or when you go into file, it's gonna completely remove that. I'm also gonna be rebalancing the nails as I go. So I'm pretty much doing everything in one as I am going nail to nail. So I first apply either the cuticle bead or the glitter, and then we're gonna rebalance to add extra thickness where we need it, especially with these extra long nails. Now for reference, I am using the Kiara Sky Monomer, and I'm using a size 12 acrylic brush from Not Polished. Now once everything is nice and dry, I'm going to go ahead and start my filing process. Efile at about 9,000 RPM. So I'm going to focus on that cuticle area and make sure that it is nice and flush to her natural nail. That way we prevent lifting issues. Whenever it is too thick in that area, it will definitely catch and snag and you will get lifting. So make sure you just go in with a fine bit and simply file until it is the perfect thickness in that area. And then I'm going to be switching over to my hand file. We're going to finish filing the nails with that. With extra long nails, again, I just feel a little bit more comfortable using that since I cover more surface at once and it allows me to hold it a little bit more sturdy versus an e-file. Sometimes my hand can just kind of give out and then we filed too much. So just to play it safe, I'm going to go ahead and use my hand file for that process.
Tenerte sería una experiencia religiosa. Este mahón es otra cosa. Sigue peleándome.
So first we're going in with that hand file on the sides of the nails just to make sure that that shape is nice and crisp. You can always play back and forth with whichever process you start with first. Again, doesn't really matter as long as you're covering all of the areas that you need to cover. So cuticle area, surface, and sides always have to be refiled at the end to get that perfect shape and that perfect smoothness. So we're focusing on that shape. I always try to make her nails super pointy. And then we're gonna go in on that surface and just file everything into the smooth, perfect surface we need for our nail art.
Yo te caché la señal, me hicieron falta palabras, fue un lenguaje corporal, todo fluyó natural, de lejos se notaba la energía sexual, mami, ¿qué más? Hay algo en ti que me tiene mal, una belleza que me quema, cuando vaya, la nota me estalla, mami, ¿qué más? Hay algo en ti que me tiene mal, sé que anda puesta para el problema. Dale guaya, que yo te doy falla. Deja que los cuerpos hablen, no hace falta más. Si ya muy bien tú sabes lo que va a pasar. Tú me pones la mente a volar. Deja que los cuerpos hablen, no hace falta más. Si ya muy bien tú sabes lo que va a pasar. Si conmigo te dejas llevar. Nah.
Now, because I'm not going to be doing nail art on top, I could totally skip this process, but I have just gotten so accustomed to buffing the nails, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do so. But if you're using a gel top coat, specifically a thicker one, you don't necessarily have to buff the surface. Whenever you go in with that top coat, it will smooth everything out nicely, but if you're like me and you just get used to it, definitely go ahead and don't skip steps. It just makes you feel that much better. I'm gonna go in and clean the surface of her nail. I did use a lint-free wipe and a little bit of Young Nails Swipe. Now I'm actually going to be taking the stain-resistant top coat from Young Nails, and we're going to be adding that onto the surface of her nails. This is a thick gel, and I absolutely love it, especially for clients that do hair or smoke. These definitely help. With smoke, I would say that the nails do still get stained, but not as bad as if you use a regular gel top coat. So do note that. I'm going to be going in with a thin layer of that on all of the nails, making sure I get all the sides as well. And then right before I cure, I'm going to wipe those sides so that there's not excess overflow and it messes up my shape. And then we're just going to cure for a full 60 seconds. If you like to be a little extra like I do, go ahead and do 2 rounds of 60 seconds.
Amor es franco y fiel, no tiene fronteras y no maldad. Mi amor es franco y fiel, no tiene fronteras.
once everything is nice and dry, I'm going to be taking a lint-free wipe and a little bit of a nail swipe, and we're going to wipe off that tacky layer. It does have a tacky layer, so do not forget to wipe that off, otherwise you're going to be having stickiness everywhere. Then I'm going to be adding a little bit of cuticle oil to her cuticles to rehydrate her skin. And that pretty much concludes today's video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned a ton. And I'll see you guys next time.